Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. For us Michigan fans, we are going into a monster 24 to 48-hour time period as five-star offensive tackle is officially making the trip up to Ann Arbor on a visit. I think the big question is, hey, can Michigan close over the next 48 hours? This has been a recruitment that we've talked about a lot over the last month, and it became very clear over the last couple of weeks that Michigan has put themselves in the driver's seat for five-star offensive tackle Ty Haywood. But that one sticking point was, look, he had never been on campus to Michigan. He has never been around the program. And we had circled this weekend as the weekend where if Michigan's going to get this one done, you have a feeling it's because they crushed the visit with Ty Haywood. I want to talk about a couple of different things. One, talk about where this recruitment is at, talk about what this would mean for Michigan, not only in the future, but immediately in 2025. And what I mean by that is it's clear that Michigan wants to add some depth on the offensive line. They have kicked around a couple of offensive linemen in the transfer portal over the last couple of weeks. What's unique about Ty Haywood, and I said this about him when he committed to Alabama over the summer, this kid is ready to play early. Andrew Babaloa, I love him. I think he'll probably need a year within the Michigan program. He is rather new to the sport of football, has a lot of technical things that he has to polish up. You look at Ty Haywood, you turn on the film from him down there in the state of Texas. This kid has been born and bred to play offensive tackle at the Power 4 level. And so what I think is so important about this visit is not only are you stockpiling a very talented offensive tackle for the next couple of years with Andrew Babaloa, with Bryce Underwood, but you're also potentially addressing some of the depth concerns you may have immediately in 2025. And that's not saying Ty Haywood's going to come in and start right away, but I'm saying, hey, if I'm a Michigan fan, I feel pretty dang comfortable about Ty Haywood being in the two deep right away as a freshman. And so not only immediate or not only like future benefits, but also kind of immediate benefits for this Michigan team as well. That's what makes this weekend so big. Before we get into it, as always, to the Michigan fans, I just want to say thank you to you guys. As Michigan fans ourselves, it's been a blast the last couple of weeks and months talking this team in the portal on the recruiting trail. The amount of support y'all continue to show to the fellas means the absolute world. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I'm going to give you the T-box here. Look, there's been a lot of noise around Michigan potentially going out and getting an offensive lineman in the portal. I think this answer is pretty obvious, but I'll ask you it. You could have one of these offensive linemen in the portal, the kid from New Mexico State, Shias Pete. You could go get Daniel King from Troy, or you could have Ty Haywood. Who are you taking here?
Yeah, and I wouldn't trade Ty Haywood for any transfer portal offensive tackle, even like the top dogs, the Isaiah Worlds, the Xavier Chaplins, the guys that I think people look at as like, oh, these are
Yeah.
premier talents. Because to be honest, I think almost every transfer portal offensive lineman has questions, whether they're bumping up from lower levels,
Yep.
whether did they really play great football at their previous school. I think there's always those questions. And B, I look at Michigan, any transfer portal tackle that's kind of coming to this program is going to be in a really competitive situation. Because there's not a lot of guys who have the capability that Andrew Sprague, I think, will have going forward. And Evan Link, his game started to clean up a little bit.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, transfer portal offensive tackles for Michigan right now feel like guys you're getting in the mix just to add competition.
Yeah, and outside of that kid from Washington State, Famili Famo, who I think was probably going to be a plug-and-play tackle for Michigan in 2025. Yes, definitely yes.
Yeah, he'd be in the
Maybe.
competition, but I
Okay,
wouldn't. I
agreed.
wouldn't necessarily say Andrew Sprague couldn't beat out anyone
Okay.
in the transfer
All
portal.
right,
I
fair
think he's
enough.
at that level.
Regardless of him, it does seem like it's been more predicated in terms of adding depth. You kind of get the double whammy with Ty Haywood. Like if you go grab the kid from New Mexico State, it's all right. You get him for 1 year, whether he starts or backs up, but then he's going to the NFL draft. You get Ty Haywood only getting better as a football player for the next couple of years. And then Dill, secondly, you just don't want to build your offensive line through the transfer portal. Like it's much more important for Michigan to get that pipeline back going. And we've certainly built that in the 2025 class, and Ty Haywood would further build it. And I think lastly, because he offers immediate, in my opinion, immediate playing capability, I think you should be prioritizing a guy like Ty Haywood. The second conversation to me is what Michigan is doing, or well, I guess let me take a back step here, or a step back. What does this recruitment look like before we get into what Michigan's doing? He was committed to Alabama, and he backs off his commitment, I believe, early this week. We know Michigan's probably in the driver's seat here. You also have Texas Tech and Florida State. And if you're a Michigan fan, what makes you feel so good about this recruitment right now is, look, he doesn't have any visits scheduled to Texas Tech, and he doesn't have any visits scheduled to Florida State. And so if you're a Michigan fan, you feel really good about Ty Haywood. Now, I want to kind of get this conversation going a little bit more broad, and that is what Michigan is doing on the recruiting trail. This is what single-handedly excites me the most about the Sherrone Moore era. Y'all know I will never say nothing bad about Jim Harbaugh. He gave us a national championship, right? Even when Michigan was winning national championships and winning Big Ten championships and whipping tail against Ohio State, it never really seemed like Michigan took that step on the recruiting trail. And you look at this program, this is something we've talked about a lot. It certainly seems like it's going in the right direction. I mean, one of, if not the biggest brand in all of college football. Obviously, great education. Obviously, great player development. It seemed like this Michigan program had so much to offer on the recruiting trail. And under Jim, it never really seemed to be maximized. And it seems like project number one for Sherrone Moore as he's taken over this job is, hey, if we want to compete for national championships every single year, we got to maximize this machine on the recruiting trail. Because if you don't, you kind of get what we just had in 2024.
Yeah, where you knew. I mean, most of us, like, certainly you're trying to hype yourself up. Oh, Will Johnson, Mason Graham, Kenny Grant, like, there were some pieces, but you look at, like, the roster as a whole,
Yeah.
there were far more questions than answers in a certain sense. Like, again, you had to rely on some guys who would need to make some monster jumps, really outplay kind of where they were at from a talent level to have that Michigan team be competitive at the national championship kind of level. And it obviously didn't happen. And a lot of that was, like, you said it, the past handful of years under Harbaugh, there was a lot of, like, instability. There was a lot of, like, Willie, won't he with the NFL draft? And you didn't see that really bear out on the field because obviously they were really good and they had a really good culture in that locker room. But you saw it bear out in the recruiting, right? Like, they weren't recruiting at the level you need to sustain a really dominant program. And you've seen Sherrone Moore come and take a very different stance and a much more hardline stance that, yeah, Michigan is going to go after every and any guy in the high school world that they kind of like and want to be a part of. In the fact that they've gotten themselves into this type of battle, the fact that they were able to go grab Nate Marshall and flip him back from Auburn, the fact that they were able to land Babalola and obviously Bryce Underwood, I think kind of shows you at Michigan, there is nobody in the country that they're not going to make runs.
Yeah, and you're starting to see those early returns in 2026 as well. You know, if you're a Michigan fan that follows what happens on the recruiting trail, I mean, this is one, we'll talk about some visitors this weekend in 2026, but it's very clear that Michigan is digging their teeth into a lot of different guys across the country on the recruiting trail. Now, in 2025, Ty Haywood's the big fish, if you will. Zahir Mathis, it sounds like Michigan's in a great spot for it too. You know, formerly committed to Ohio State. Love this kid. And I think Lou Esposito's probably salivating. You know, you get a 6'6", 200. He's wiry at 225 pounds. The length and first step this kid has, incredible. I mean, he's a little bit more of an Andrew Babalola kind of guy in terms of, hey, probably needs a year to put more weight on before he's ready to play for Michigan. But what this kid could be the ceiling of him coming off the edge, it's really hard not to see a coach like Lou Esposito maximizing a guy like Zahir Mathis. And this kind of just further shows, like, hey, who are the best couple of players still available in 2025? It's Ty Haywood, Zahir Mathis. Well, Michigan's in for both of them, and they're both going to be on campus over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, Ty Haywood this weekend, Zahir Mathis next weekend. And then, Dill, you fast forward to the 2026 class where Michigan's wasting no time building relationships. I'm just going to start with a name that, to me, like, Michigan fans should get to know. That's four-star cornerback Victor Singleton. We all see where he's from, Toledo, Ohio. We all know this is who this is going to come down to, right? Michigan, Ohio State. Sherrone Moore's at his high school yesterday. He's going to be on campus this weekend. 6 foot, $165. They're so smooth. I mean, one, he's long in the arms. He's got incredible straight line speed. I don't have any track times to kind of verify, but when I look at him, you could tell this kid cooks. and he's so smooth, and he knows how to play the football in the air. You're seeing Michigan start to stack these classes. And you talk about getting Michigan back to competing for national championships every single year. You can lose 12 NFL guys to the NFL draft, but we have that pipeline of talent where we don't rebuild, we just reload. This is what Sherrone Moore is trying to do with this Michigan program over the next 8 months on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, and it's so fun. It's like, again, like losing Harbaugh certainly hurt, and it's like obviously he had an era that was unbelievable. And
Yes.
that 21 to 2023, I should say, was about as fun a period as we've really ever seen.
Agreed.
Certainly in my lifetime, going back to early 2000s of probably paying attention. But the fact that like Sherrone Moore, I think, is really just trying to create it more in the lights of what Nick Saban was able to do or what Kirby Smart was able to do, where you knew every year they were going to be a huge player in recruiting. They were going to be really good in terms of being able to hire really good staff members and just be able to be competitive in every domain. Because again, as much as like nobody developed heart players the way Michigan was able to do under Harbaugh, like I don't think anyone was able to do it that way. But they weren't great in every other area. It didn't feel like at certain times.
No, yeah, no,
They didn't
nobody.
hire the best coaches. They didn't have the best staff. Like you had Don Brown, who was just a long way too long. You go hire Josh Gaddis, wasn't the hire that Michigan needed. Like there were so many areas that I think Michigan was kind of falling short in a sense.
Yes.
The fact that Sherrone Moore has pretty much said like, well, we're gonna try to dominate every area, player development and recruiting, hiring really good coaches. It's certainly a different era, and it feels a little bit different. And like, it's really fun, I think, if you're a Michigan fan.
Yeah, and you look at Jim Harbaugh did something so special in 2023 based on really two things. Well, one, he got the coaching staff hires, right? Player development and culture. I don't think there was a better program in terms of developing talent, and I don't think there was a better culture out there than what you saw at Michigan in 2023. Look, Sherrone Moore is good. That's going to continue under Michigan, but you're right. Can you consistently win national titles just off player development and culture? No, probably not. You need the talent acquisition piece to be involved. And Sherrone Moore, I think, knows that, and he's bringing that to Michigan. If you can keep that, the player development and culture in place, and then you add the elite talent, like Michigan was always good in talent acquisition. Were they elite? No. Well, Sherrone Moore's trying to get us to elite. That ensures that you're competing for national championships every single year. That's the standard within this Michigan program. We'll sign out there again. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Massive weekend. I got the commitment sweatshirt right on the chair, begging to be put on for Ty Haywood. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.